divorce separation, whether the separation is a judicial separation or just a breakup.
The emotional,
it's got the same emotional impact.
Hello, everyone. I'm Vicki Townsend, the president of Divorce Right, and welcome to Divorce Right, HR solutions for divorce in the workplace. And today we have a very interesting conversation with Dr. Sue Palmer-Conn about how to build a family transition policy for your company. So let me jump in here and tell you a little bit about Sue. Dr. Sue Palmer-Conn, aka the Divorce Doctor and principal of the Divorce Coaching Academy, is a certified divorce coach, a certified divorce specialist, certified discernment counselor, and chartered psychologist. Sue got divorced at 50 after 25 years of marriage. And after a successful academic career, she retrained in various coaching modalities, eventually specializing in helping divorcing men and women and couples. So Sue, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate your being with us all the way over from the beautiful other side of the pond in the UK.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. So we're going to talk about family transition policies and how important they are in the workplace. But first, I think it's important. What is a family transition policy?
Well, as you know, divorce rates are not going down at all. And anything up to, depending on figures that are published, between 40 and 50% of couples are eventually going through divorce. And that means that probably 40 or 50% of the workforce are going through divorce at not necessarily at any one time, but over their lifespan of their career. And it's a traumatic time. It's very emotionally traumatic. And they need support, not just at home, but in the workplace as well.
Absolutely. So by having and establishing this policy, like how will that help their employees?
Well, first of all, we need to think about making this policy inclusive. Mm-hmm. And it should be part of the diversity and inclusion policy in general, because people need to have a bit more flexibility in the way that they work, because they're going to have appointments with attorneys or mediators or financial planners or real estate agents. So they're going to need to have time off, especially if appointments are last minute. Mm-hmm. You can't always plan these things weeks and months in advance. So we need to have flexibility to show that people are being supported. And then in addition to that, all the emotional trauma needs a lot of support, especially where there's children involved in the divorce. So, they're going to have to get used to being a single parent. So they're going to have different childcare arrangements, which again needs flexibility.
Absolutely. And I do believe that having something written down so that an employee can actually have either a sense of relief or a sense of comfort knowing that there is a plan in place for them at their workplace, right?
Well, yeah, we have transition policies for bereavement. We have policies for childbirth, mm-hmm. and adoption. In some places, we have policies for menopause, the female transition period. But there's nothing written down anywhere for divorce.
Sue, I have to tell you that we're working with a company and they actually have, and I think it's wonderful. This is not but they actually have a policy that allows for when you adopt a dog or an animal that you get 2 days off for something like that. So I think that this major life event that is divorce, because we like to say, here at Divorce Right, that divorce isn't a legal crisis. It's not a mental health crisis. It truly is a life crisis. Every area of their life is impacted, and helping them through this labyrinthine system that they've never been exposed to before, or maybe if they have, it's been 10, 20, 30 years prior, that they don't really have the experience to actually get through this crazy process that we call divorce easily. So I see now this is wonderful. But so in all of that, we know that it helps the employee give some clarity, get them some flexibility, but how will it help the company when they have a policy like this?
Well, if you've got an employee who knows he or she is going to get the support that's necessary, whether that's internal support or referral to external support, they're going to be a lot more loyal than somebody who is just thrown to the wolves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the company can build a culture of respect and inclusion. And, you know, so there's a saying that, that a cold at home is the flu at work. And so trying to pretend or work in a way where divorce, you know, personal problems at home don't come into the workplace, I think is a fairy tale at this point. And that understanding, right, that it actually does impact the company, despite however many times you tell them to leave their personal life at home, it's actually becoming very obvious that that's a real impossibility at this point. So, so when somebody wants to write this family transition policy, and you're calling it a family transition policy because it also, we're talking about unmarried couples that do this break, is that right?
That's right. Divorce, separation, whether the separation is the judicial separation or just a breakup,
the emotional,
it's got the same emotional impact. And we know from research that productivity drops off by up to 40% for up to 5 or even 10 years around divorce. So how many companies can afford that amount of fall off in productivity?
Right. That's why we want to help companies actually support their employees through this, so that we can make that big dent in that 40% number. So as we're talking about this family transition policy, what do they need a company, an HR department that wants to create this family transition policy for their company? What do they need to consider when they're creating that? What needs to go into it?
Well, it needs to be considered in alignment with other policies. So they need to look at things like attendance policies, work-life balance, health, compassionate leave, employee well-being, flexible working, parental leave, sick pay, bullying and harassment, violence at work, equal opportunities, diversity and inclusion. The list goes on and on and on. So, you know, it is as important as any one of those.
I agree. And to think that, you know, some companies have, and it's not because they don't want to do this. I think that it's just been, it's like this sticky spider web where there's so many moving parts, and touching something over here impacts something over here. So it's so overwhelming to try and put that together so that everything is taken care of in that policy, that they just said, forget, we're not going to do it. Right. It's just too hard to do. And that's why what I love, we are going to be working together to help companies that have never had a family transition policy to have that opportunity to get one now, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, divorce is no respecter of rank. It can be anyone from a shop floor worker right up to the CEO.
Oh, that's exactly the truth. Divorce does not discriminate, and it can oftentimes at that C-suite level, sometimes the intricacies and the complications of their divorce is so much more, because there's so much more involved. There are more assets, there are more complications to how their finances have been set up. that it can actually be incredibly much more overwhelming and much more impactful at that C-suite level because of the amount of complications that have to be sorted out. So yeah, I agree with that nobody is immune. And sadly, there hasn't been a place in most companies' workplace that actually addresses this. So at the end of this, as we bring this to a close, Sue, and what would you recommend? What advice do you have for HR directors that are even considering putting this policy into their company's policy manual?
They need to research all the different elements that are involved in a divorce for a start. And I think taking advice from experts in the field is probably the fastest way to get that research done.
Agreed. So, and now what I would love, Sue, is as we, want to close this out, we try and make these 20 minutes or less so that our HR managers can listen to this, hopefully in a bite-sized chunks. How can they get in touch with you, Sue, if they want to consider doing this for their own company?
Email is probably the easiest way with the time difference, and that is Dr. Sue, that's a DR doctor, at divorce-doctor, the full word doctor.com.
Awesome. And we'll put that below our YouTube videos. If you're watching this on YouTube or in the podcast, we will have that information available to you. So we are, just so that everybody knows, we are working on a family transition policy for companies in the UK and in the United States. And if that sounds like something that you'd like to add to your company's policy, please reach out to us, because we'd like to work with you on how we can help you solve the problems that divorce in the workplace can cause. I want to thank you, Sue, for being with us today and talking about this very, very important topic and how we can make an impact on families in the corporate setting and help them get through this life-altering event as seamlessly as possible. Thank you so much for being with us today, Sue.
Thank you for having me.
Have a great day, everyone. Bye for now.